Hey, it's David. I'm back with the Eric Clapton signature Fender Stratocaster, American made, and I just picked it up, picked it a little bit, and I wanted to speak real quick to the Fender news about them coming after guitar players in Europe, and also about why I decided to start a guitar company. Um, the one thing that I see today is that the major guitar brands, the only one that's run by an actual person who is actually a guitar person and controls the company is Paul Reed Smith. And I think he's the guitar builder of our time, of my generation anyway. And prior to Paul Reed Smith, it was Leo Fender. Um, you had Ted McCarty over at Gibson, and you had Les Paul. Um, but the Les Paul that they made, Les Paul made a solid body electric guitar, and it was just a block of wood with some pickups. And then he bolted on some hollow body stuff so it would look like a guitar. And that's all Wikipedia stuff. Les Paul was a famous guitar player in the 40s. Um, and so that was his signature guitar. And Gibson basically uh, did what they did with their design and their contour body and everything, um, because they were a musical instrument company before they started making guitars. I would like to point out that with regard to intellectual property and the design of a guitar, right? Neither Fender nor Gibson invented the guitar. They copied someone else. So if there's a copyright to be held on guitars, um, I don't think some judge in Germany should be the one to decide what it is. First of all, rock and roll and guitars are American. Yes, they're American. Um, Hats off to the Scorpions and Rabstein, but a German judge should not be making rock and roll decisions. And I think the decision that was made to grant the current corporate owner of Fender guitars copyrights to something that they did not create. Leo Fender created it and some other gentlemen. Uh, Leo Fender did not transfer the rights to that guitar when he sold Fender to the gentleman, to CBS, who bought Fender from Leo. The patents for the Strat had been expired already, and the subsequent attempts of Fender Corporation, who bought from Leo, to patent the body of the Stratocaster, were denied because U.S. Patent Court found that it was a public domain design and it wasn't theirs to patent. Now, Leo Fender, I can tell you, he didn't intend to sell them the intellectual property rights of his Stratocaster design so that they could exclusively sell it, because he started two other guitar companies and he made the same guitar style at least one of those guitar companies. So uh, the whole thing with Fender is absurd, and it makes for good conversation. It makes for good YouTube. Um, I'm retired. That's how that's why I'm into guitars now. Um, but I am going to law school in my retirement, and I can tell you, I will be happy to make a career um, litigating with Fender over this issue. Should it come to that? It's un-American what they're trying to do. Um, it just goes to show you that the people running the guitar companies are not musicians or guitar players. It's not about the fact that they're legally right or wrong. Um, they're attempting to silence musicians, and that's not artistic or in keeping with the way guitar players think. So, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to keep making my guitars, and I'm going to keep saying what a great guitar this is. I can tell you right now, if Fender would just focus on making the best guitars, you know, they wouldn't need to be worried about the fact that their quality, that they don't obviously don't feel that their quality is significantly better than commodity stock that's out there, or they wouldn't need to be in court, and they wouldn't be trying to push $450 guitars that are not made out of common tone wood. Some people like poplar. Not a, I don't know. I've never played a poplar guitar. That's not what guitars are made of. That's why I never played one. Certainly not what Fenders are made of. You know, I get some frustration with the fact that the Fender's bodies that I get are made out of mahogany. Mahogany is a good tone wood. Typically Fender bodies should be alder or ash. So they're selling these poplar bodies for $450. They're going to court because somebody is selling their guitars for 60 euros in Europe and Germany, and they're probably paying less than 60 euros. They're probably paying less than $60 per copy to get those foreign made guitars that they're selling you for $450 made. So, you know, it's just bad business. It's bad publicity. It's bad business. And it's a disservice to Leo Fender, and it's a disservice to Eric Clapton. And I think that the executives at Fender and their legal team owe us, their customers, a public apology for their lack of concern for the music. I think there was a movie called Footloose that was referenced in Guardians of the Galaxy, and Fender's the new Footloose people that Chris Pratt was talking about. Anyway, that's enough of my rant for today. Airborne. Sorry, this guitar plays so much better than the commodity guitars or any other guitar I have. I just can't even begin to tell you. A guitar that you can pick up that makes you sound like you can play better than you normally can play, that's a PRS. That's this Eric Clapton Stratocaster. You know, it goes, part of it is the vintage frets, and it just, you know, when I pick this up and play it, the notes are all where they're supposed to be. I'm not missing notes. You know, quality guitars are worth the price. If you're just learning, you know, you might want to spend your money on an amp. But I'm going to practice here a little bit. Maybe I'll get something to lay down besides just me talking, yapping about Fender, which I love, by the way. try that. Well, thank you for your patience, and have a great day.